Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Twitter has a poison pill now. Poison pills. Here are some things you could do. 1. Buy 51% of the stock of a public company in the open market over time, just buying whenever anyone sells, looking for any blocks of stock that come loose, paying the market price for each trade, etc. To put numbers on it, let's say you start buying at around $40 per share and finish at around $50 per share. Your buying, and the legally required disclosure of your ownership, will push up the price. Once you have 51%, you take control, vote out the board, vote in your bodies, elect a new chief executive officer and run the company however you want. Buy 51% of the stock of a public company in a tender offer. A tender offer is just a big coordinated public offer to buy stock, open to all shareholders at the same price. You announce to all shareholders, I want to buy 51% of this company and I'll pay $50 per share in cash, but I won't buy more than 51%. More than 51% tender, you prorate the offer, not buying all the shares that are tendered, you get to exactly 51%, paying $50 per share. You proceed as above, taking control of the board, etc. You acquire 51% of the company and take control of the board, as in either Thing 1 or Thing 2. Then you propose a merger at $30 per share. The new board, your buddies, agrees, and submits it to a shareholder vote. You vote your 51% of the shares in favor, and the merger happens. You acquire the remaining 49% of the stock at $30 per share. The holders of that 49%, who did not sell to you at $50 in the first step, are forced to sell to you at $30 in the second step. That's how mergers work. When the merger happens, the stock is automatically converted into whatever the merger consideration is, here $30 in cash. Same as Thing 1, but instead of buying 51% you buy, I don't know, 30%. At 30% you just need to convince a few other shareholders to vote with you to kick out the board, etc. As the biggest shareholder, you might have effective control even without a majority. Offer to buy 100% of the stock of the company in a tender offer. Announce to all shareholders, I want to buy 100% of this company and I'll pay $50 per share in cash. But let me warn you. If I get above 51%, but not to 100%, I will definitely do a second step merger, as in Thing 3, and I'll do it at $30 per share. So if you want $50, you better tender now, because if you don't you're getting $30. Shareholders might think that $50 is too low, and might not want to tender. But they can't be sure that 51% of the stock won't tender, and they don't want to be left out. So they tender for $50 to avoid getting stuck with $30. This is called a two-tier tender offer. Same as Thing 5, but you don't make the threat explicit. I want to buy 100% of this company and I'll pay $50 per share in cash, you say. But you have a reputation for being tough, and a history of treating minority shareholders poorly. The threat is implicit, so shareholders tender at $50 to avoid ending up in the minority of a company that you control. These are the things, the classic things. They are coercive takeover tactics, in the lingo. They are ways for someone, a corporate raider, in the lingo, to take over a company without paying a fair price for it, or without offering every shareholder the same price. Or, arguably without paying a fair price. You might think that some of these things are fine. If you can get 51% of the shareholders of a company to sell you their stock in market transactions, what's the problem? But boards of directors of public companies generally take a dim view of these things. They think of themselves as fiduciaries for all of the shareholders, and they do not like the idea of someone buying the company out from under them. Instead, the board of directors will prefer a nice tidy negotiation between the buyer and the board. The buyer comes to the board and offers a merger, and they negotiate the terms with each other. If the board agrees to a deal, it will generally involve the buyer paying the same price to every shareholder, and it will be a price that the board thinks reflects the full value of the company. Once the buyer has an agreement with the board, they will go out together, buyer and board, and seek shareholder approval. Either by signing a merger agreement and submitting it to a shareholder vote, or by doing a tender offer in which the buyer asks to buy all the shares from shareholders directly, but on terms approved by the board. If the board does not agree to the deal, the buyer goes away peacefully and does not cause trouble by buying more stock, launching a tender offer to shareholders without board approval, or running a proxy fight in which the buyer tries to replace the board with its own nominees. That is the dignified, controlled way that corporate boards,